I was promised love. Instead, an edict, an imperial command from the throne made me Empress. The night before I entered the palace, my beloved poured me peach blossom wine as a farewell. Warm smile, soft words. Then the blood. His face hardened. Did you think I loved you? If you can never bear a child, my Luna will be the most favored woman in the harem. Safflower in the cup, a ruined womb, a sickness that would not stop. The emperor saw the stains, called it shame, and gave me poison. My entire Shen family died for deceiving the throne. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at that table, his hand on the cup, his lie still sweet on his tongue. This time, I wouldn't drink. Chapter 1. Before me stood the young man, tall and elegant, his eyes bright beneath sharp brows. He looked at me with sorrow as he offered that cup of peach blossom wine. "Claire," he said softly, "I brewed this just for you. I once imagined we would drink it at our engagement feast after your coming of age. But now, once you enter the palace, there will be no turning back." I stared at the face that, in my memory, had twisted with hatred. Fear crawled through me. The wine in his hand was no longer a symbol of affection. It was the death warrant of my Shen family. Fighting down the nausea, I covered my mouth with a handkerchief and spoke evenly. "Master Xie, since this wine was meant for our engagement, what's missed is missed. I am now the Emperor's chosen Empress. You would do well to keep your distance." Then I signaled discreetly to Zoe behind me. She caught my meaning at once, pulling gently on my sleeve. "My lady, I nearly forgot. The chests for your palace entry still need your inspection. We should return at once." I rose and left without another word, leaving him frozen in shock. In my previous life, after being given the poison, I had knelt before the emperor, begging for mercy. Not for myself, but for my Shen family. I knocked my forehead bloody again and again, pleading that my illness came from something I had eaten, not from shameful misconduct. But the emperor saw the bloodstains on my robe and was convinced I had lost my virtue before entering the palace. He believed my father had sent me in, only to disgrace him. He said he despised how the chancellor had ruled over him. He was the son of heaven. As a child he needed a regent, but now that he ruled alone, he saw my father's guidance as overreach. So his resentment had been festering all along. Yet in court he had praised my father, declaring, "The realm cannot go a single day without its chancellor." At his side, Consort Luna Shu covered her mouth and laughed softly, fanning the flames. "Your Majesty, they say Lady Claire had a charming sweetheart before she entered the palace. Who knows what truly happened between them?" In the consort's ridicule and the emperor's rage, palace servants pried open my mouth and forced down the poison. It burned like fire. My hairpins fell loose, my robe soaked with sweat. And I died in agony. My aunt, the Empress Dowager, arrived too late. The emperor and consort Luna had already left. Servants were dragging my corpse away to dump in a mass grave. Tears streamed down my aunt's face as she threw herself over me, crying aloud. "Claire, how foolish! How could you and your father bring such shame upon the royal house? Even if you loved another, how could you give yourself away before the emperor's marriage?" But I was already dead, unable to defend myself. My soul floated before her, desperate to explain. "Aunt, I didn't. After drinking Adrian Shi's wine, I bled endlessly, and he disappeared. The physician treated me all night and said I could never conceive again. He gave me medicine to stop the bleeding temporarily. I was to enter the palace the next morning. My parents had no choice, or they would be guilty of defying an imperial edict. I meant to confess my condition to the emperor later. But before the wedding night, the maid served me tea, and I began bleeding again. That was when suspicion arose. No matter how I cried, my aunt could not hear me. A few days later, the emperor used my disgrace as reason to denounce the Shen family. He decreed that the empress had lost her virtue and could not be mother of the nation. He accused the Shen clan of deliberately humiliating the royal house. The edict was read. Hundreds of Shen kinsmen were slaughtered. Blood ran like rivers. Now, sitting in the carriage returning home, I twisted the silk handkerchief in my hands until it nearly tore. I knew well. To enjoy the Shen family's honor was also to bear its burden. In my past life, I had not wished to see Adrian Shea again. Seeing him plead so earnestly, I had softened. He had once seemed the perfect gentleman, the husband of my dreams. That day, he poured the wine he'd brewed himself and fed it to me. I told myself that drinking it would sever our bond forever. But as soon as I swallowed, his expression changed. The tenderness vanished, cruelty replaced it. As I clutched my abdomen in pain, he laughed and told the truth. I heard the late emperor left a secret edict naming you future empress. I thought, if you fell for me and bore my child, you'd be unfit to enter the palace, and my Shi family would suffer for it. Better to destroy you first, make the emperor despise you, so the woman I love can reign supreme. Did you really think I loved you? Whoever the empress was, I'd find a way to ruin her, unless it was Luna Shu herself. I love her that much. For her happiness, I'd clear away every obstacle. I was too weak to speak. He turned and walked away, leaving behind the ruin of my life. A breeze carried the scent of osmanthus through the carriage window. My eyes grew cold. Adrian Shy, for your Luna Shu, you destroyed not only me, but my entire Shen clan. Between us lies an ocean of blood. This time, if you wish to keep her safe and favored above all, you will be disappointed. The next morning, I rode in the grand bridal procession of the Empress, entering the palace through its gilded gates. Under the gaze of the entire court, I wore a magnificent yellow gown, the color reserved for the highest rank, and stepped toward the emperor. He handed me the jade seal of the Empress, the symbol of imperial power. As the chancellor's daughter, my every movement was graceful and proper. Not a single mistake could be found. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw consort Luna Shu watching me closely from below the dais. Her almond eyes were slightly upturned, full of open hostility. She was breathtaking, seductive, confident, every glance steeped in allure. I, however, was of a different beauty. Cool and pure, skin as pale as snow, face like a lotus fresh from the water. At 16, I was in the bloom of youth. I smiled faintly, my red lips curling just enough. I knew how beautiful I was. No wonder she felt threatened. And Adrian Ca? He was her weapon, carefully planted long ago. In my previous life, the emperor had feared my father's power as chancellor. To disgrace me was only an excuse. Destroying my family was his real goal. The late emperor had trusted my father deeply, appointing him chancellor in gratitude for years of loyal service. Half the peace and prosperity of the realm had been built upon my father's counsel. To honor that, the late emperor left behind an edict decreeing that I should one day become the empress. Even if I had remained unharmed, the new emperor would have found another reason to eliminate us. But this time, I would not give him that chance. Last night, my father and I spoke by candlelight. He had decided to resign from office and return to our hometown. Compared with survival, wealth, and status, meant little. That evening, I sat in the brightly lit Fengqi Palace, waiting for the emperor. How long he would stay, that I could not predict. In my last life, before entering the palace, my tutor had told me that consort Luna Shu was the emperor's favorite. He had married me only to fulfill the late emperor's decree. Everyone in the palace whispered that the true wife of His Majesty was consort Luna Shu, his childhood sweetheart. Her aunt, once consort Rong, was now Grand Dowager Rong. Years ago, consort Rong had lost her child and fallen into deep grief. To comfort her, the late emperor brought her niece Luna Shu into the palace as a companion. Luna's background was unusual. Her mother had once been betrothed to a northern Khan in a political alliance. Luna carried northern blood in her veins. When the Khan died in an accident, consort Rong pleaded for her sister and niece to return to the capital. The emperor's own mother, a concubine who fell from favor, had died in a cold palace cell. As a child, he had been neglected, mistreated, even half-starved at times. Luna, spirited and bold from her desert upbringing, had once stepped in to protect the young prince from cruel attendants. From then on, she became his only light. She loved the lonely boy she had saved, and he, in turn, adored her. The only warmth he had ever known. But no matter how beautiful the beginning, who could promise a perfect ending? I sighed, straightened my back, and endured the weight of the phoenix crown pressing on my shoulders. Zoe stepped forward quietly. "Your Majesty, shall we wait for the Emperor?" I smiled faintly. Of course I would wait. This was our wedding night. I did not believe he would dare humiliate the Empress by failing to appear. He would come. Sure enough, after a short while, the golden figure of the Emperor appeared, and he lifted my veil. Under the flickering light, I smiled shyly, my eyes lowered, soft, gentle, like the perfect bride. Without my father's shadow looming over him, he seemed less guarded, even a little curious. After we shared the ceremonial cup of wine, he sat beside me in silence. Before I could speak, a maid from Consort Luna's quarters arrived in a panic. "Your Majesty, the consort twisted her ankle while drinking. She begs you to come see her." The Emperor barely waited for her to finish before rushing out of the palace, leaving me sitting alone on the wedding bed. Zoe muttered angrily on my behalf, but I merely smiled. Their bond ran deep. Such a reaction was only natural. To topple Luna's shoe would take time, patience, not anger. What mattered most was that the Shen family was now safe. I dismissed the attendants, blew out the candles, and slept soundly through the night. The next morning, all the imperial consorts came to Funchi Palace to pay their respects. Most were daughters of noble families placed in the harem by the Empress Dowager, yet few had ever seen the Emperor in person. I greeted them graciously, then ordered my maids to reward each one with generous gifts. One seat, however, remained empty, that of Consort Luna's shoe. Beside me, Lady Xiao whispered indignantly, "It's one thing for the consort to act arrogantly, but to keep the Empress waiting on such an important day? That's open defiance." I smiled. Let it be, justice has its own way of revealing itself. We shared several cups of tea, yet Luna's shoe never arrived. As whispers began to spread among the others, I dismissed them politely. Yes, I did it on purpose. The more arrogant Luna appeared, the more virtuous I seemed. She could flaunt her favor all she wished, but imperial love is fickle. An emperor's affection can raise you to glory one day, and take your head the next. Power, however, endures. That was what I sought. Soon enough, rumors spread through the palace. The favored consort had become so spoiled that she dared to skip the Empress's audience. When the Empress Dowager heard, she sent a senior attendant with treasured gifts, pearls, gold, jade hairpins, to comfort me. Even as the Empress, I bowed respectfully to the attendant, for the gesture was meant for my aunt to see. Love is nothing compared to pity. To make someone ache for you, that is the finest strategy of all. And indeed, the Dowager's reminder worked. A few days later, the Emperor came to dine with me. He apologized, saying that night he'd only rushed out because he heard Luna was hurt. I shook my head, smiling gently, and placed a piece of chicken on his plate. He looked at me, momentarily dazed. Of course, I had practiced that smile countless times before a mirror. Tonight, I wore only a plain home dress, my hair simply tied. I looked pure and gentle, impossible not to like. They say spring rain softens everything without sound. The heart, too, yields quietly under the smallest touches. I wasn't in a hurry. Someone else would be. Sure enough, before dinner ended, a maid burst in from Consort Luna's quarters, weeping. "Your Majesty, the consort's heart is acting up again. She begs you to come at once." She knelt, sobbing dramatically, though her eyes showed no guilt. She and Luna both knew the Emperor would leave me for her. The Emperor looked conflicted, guilt flickering in his eyes as he took my hand. I dabbed his lips with a silk cloth and said softly, "If Consort Luna is unwell, please go see her, Your Majesty." He hadn't expected such grace. Embarrassment crossed his face. Admiration followed. I helped him into his cloak. "It's windy tonight, don't catch a chill." As I drew the cloak around him, my hand brushed his chest and I quickly looked down, cheeks flushed. He lingered a moment longer, then turned to go, but not before glancing back at me with something unreadable in his eyes. See? The fish had taken the bait. After that night, the Emperor stayed in Consort Lunashu's palace for half a month. He did not come to Fengchi Palace once, nor did the consort come to pay her respects. When the other concubines came to greet me, their eyes held different meanings. Sympathy, pity, amusement. Some even seemed to be watching for my fall. I simply cracked melon seeds with them, chatted idly about flowers, and sometimes joined them to stroll through the imperial gardens. Watching the blossoms in full bloom, I recited softly, "No flower stays red for 100 days. If even flowers fade, how could human favor endure?" My calmness only made the Empress Dowager admire me more. To her, I was not only her niece, but also a dignified empress who knew no jealousy and could keep peace in the harem. Even when faced with the proud consort, I showed no anger. When I heard she was suffering from heart pains, I sent imperial physicians to tend to her. Though everyone knew she was pretending. The Empress Dowager, my aunt, loved me all the more for it. When I visited her a few days later, she held my hand and praised the late emperor's wisdom, again and again. That night, as the emperor's carriage passed by Fengqi Palace, he saw a glow of tiny lights inside. Fireflies filled the darkness, shimmering like stars. From within came the sound of a guqin. He pushed the door open quietly. There he saw Zoe playing the zither while I danced among the drifting fireflies. I wore a moon-white gown of gauzy silk, my hair done in the style of a goddess from an ancient painting, a single green lotus in my hand. Under the moonlight, I seemed almost unreal, like a spirit descended from heaven. The emperor stopped, stunned. Though I had noticed him long ago, I pretended not to, letting my movements flow with the music. The moon sank behind willows. The song ended with the spring breeze. When the final note faded, he clapped softly, eyes shining with awe. I turned in surprise, bowing in fluster, the pins in my hair loosening so that dark strands fell over my shoulders. He crossed the room in a few long strides and lifted me into his arms. The scent of lilies rose between us, and his gaze burned hotter by the second. The doors closed. The servant slipped away. "Empress," he murmured, "I owe you a wedding night." In early spring, the begonias bloom with rain, delicate and trembling, whispering secrets to the breeze. The emperor's restraint shattered that night. He kissed me as if to make up for all the years of distance, every touch desperate, consuming. I clung to him silently. When it was over, he pulled me close, idly twirling a strand of my hair around his finger. I looked up at him, eyes wide, soft, innocent as a fawn's. For an instant, I saw something flicker there, pity. A heartbeat later, he stood and began to dress. I rose and helped him put on his golden robe, smoothing the wrinkles and his slightly disheveled hair. Seeing my calm expression, he hesitated. "Empress, I promised the consort I'd visit her tonight." Before he could finish, I leaned up and brushed his cheek with a quick kiss, smiling gently. "Your Majesty, you are ruler of all under heaven. The people are your children. I, as your Empress, must aid you in keeping peace within the palace. It is my duty to ensure harmony among the consorts. Please don't worry about me. Go to her." I clasped his hand beneath the wavering candlelight. "Whatever you wish to do, Your Majesty, I will always support you." He looked at me, moved, then left Fengqi Palace. But even the most beautiful flower loses its charm when seen too often, and the showy peony, after a while, cannot compare to the purity of a white orchid. The emperor began to visit me more frequently. Each time he came, he seemed burdened with unspoken frustration. And each time he left, his face was calm, satisfied. They say the gentlest blade cuts the deepest, and truly nothing conquers a man's heart faster than tenderness. Soon, the imperial consort noticed that the emperor was growing weaker in her bed. Of course, each time he came to me, though he never stayed the night, I always found ways to leave him exhausted. A clever woman like Lunashu could hardly miss the signs. For the first time, she demanded to see the chamber records that listed where the emperor had spent each night. When she saw my name, Claire Shen, written again and again, fury consumed her. She had a fiery temper and never hid displeasure. Soon, word spread through the palace. During lunch, she and the emperor quarreled bitterly. Zoe came to report the news, her face alight with joy. She said the servants were whispering. This was the first time the emperor had argued with the consort, and the first time he had stormed out of Weiyang Palace, leaving her in tears. I smiled faintly at Zoe's delight and told her to light the emperor's favorite incense, suhexiang. Each time I burned it, I would place a few slices of pear on top. Soon this sweet, cool scent filled Fengqi Palace. As expected, I knew the emperor would come. But before he arrived, the consort did. Her maids burst through my doors while I was combing my hair. My long black hair trailed to the floor. The small window was half open, letting in a breeze that lifted a few stray strands. Barefoot, dressed in pale moon-colored silk, I must have looked like a painting come to life. She stared at me, eyes blazing with jealousy and rage, her hands trembling. I did not demand courtesy. I simply walked past her, barefoot, to prepare the emperor's favorite lychees. One by one, I peeled them gently. The translucent fruit shone like jewels. The next moment, the entire tray was shoved from my hands, scattering fruit across the floor. I gasped, eyes full of distress, and knelt to pick them up piece by piece. The dignified empress, kneeling to gather lychees? Of course, it was intentional. Her servants restrained mine, none dared look at me. As I knelt, my outer robe slipped from my shoulders, revealing the curve of my collarbone and the faint bruises along my neck. Luna Shu saw them and snapped. She lunged forward, gripping my throat, eyes blood red. I only looked back at her, tears welling silent. She laughed coldly. "Stop pretending, you deceitful little fox, playing innocent to win his favor. Do you think I can't see through it? Empress, you're just his passing fancy. He once swore he'd love me till death, that we'd be inseparable even as spirits. I'll see today who can protect you now that his majesty isn't here." Her slap came hard. 5 crimson marks bloomed across my cheek. The servants froze, terrified to breathe. To strike the Empress within the central palace was no longer arrogance, it was treason. Another slap was coming. I closed my eyes and counted silently. Almost there. As expected, a hand caught hers midair. Chapter 2. A flash of yellow silk. The Emperor gripped her wrist, fury darkening his face. "Consort! She is the Empress. How dare you overstep your bounds?" Luna Shu stared at him, but when she saw the anger in his eyes, tears finally spilled. She let go, her spirit collapsing, turning away like a wilted flower. The Emperor hurried to me, lifting my chin anxiously. "Are you hurt?" I fell into his arms, tears spilling onto his cheek, biting my lip. Then, trembling, I clutched his robe and whispered through sobs, "Brother Song." I felt his body stiffen. Desire flickered beneath the pity in his gaze. Hearing me call him that made Luna Shu explode again. She smashed everything within reach. The jewelry, the porcelain, even the priceless paintings he had given me. "Song Weijin, you belong only to me," she screamed, before storming out of Fengqi Palace. I remained on the floor, still barefoot, gathering the fallen lychees into my palms, tears glistening. "Brother Song," I murmured, "I couldn't even protect your favorite fruit." He sighed, touching my hair, lifting me up gently. "Silly girl," he said softly. "You're the Empress of this realm. How could you let the consort strike you?" "What if I hadn't come?" I pressed my face against his chest. "I know she's dearest to you, Brother Song. I don't want to make things hard for you. Please, don't be angry with her because of me." He wanted nothing more than obedience, complete surrender. Even if Luna Shu had once been his light, he would never allow a woman to challenge his authority. He looked down at me, his expression softening. "If only the consort were as understanding as you." He brushed my swollen cheek with his fingers and drew me close. The pearl curtain fell, and his heated lips found mine. "Claire," he whispered, "give me a child." Of course I would not. On my wedding night, I had taken an herbal draught to prevent conception for 3 years. There were plenty of others eager to bear his heirs. That night, for the first time, he stayed with me until dawn. After that, he came openly, again and again. When I claimed to be unwell, I suggested he visit the other concubines instead. The consort was confined for a month, but her flute playing was too beautiful to silence. A few days later, as the Emperor passed her palace, she played Song of Longing. He entered, and did not emerge for 7 days. Zoe told me the news while I was practicing calligraphy. On the paper, again and again, I wrote one word, Kong. Beside me lay open history books. When the Emperor was away, I brewed tea, practiced calligraphy, and lived in peace. I often visited my aunt, the Empress Dowager, but that did not mean I ignored what went on beyond my walls. One afternoon, as I finished reading a line from the Book of Documents, "The human heart is perilous, the righteous heart delicate. Be sincere, be single-minded, hold fast to the middle way." A secret letter arrived. I tossed it into the brazier and watched it burn to ash. Moments later, Luna Shu appeared with the Emperor and several concubines. Her sharp voice split the air. "Shameless Empress Claire Shen, you dared to seduce Lord Adrian Shai, seeking illicit relations within the palace." I frowned slightly at her hysteria. Adrian Shai, he had grown impatient. Or perhaps the consort was finally afraid. Terrified that someone might truly steal the Emperor's favor, she was willing to sacrifice even the man who adored her. I smiled faintly and tilted my head toward the Emperor. "Brother Song, what is she talking about? Surely you know who I love most." His eyes darkened, but before he could speak, Luna Shu rushed forward. This shameless woman planned to meet her former lover. If not for the loyal Lord Shai, who confessed everything, the harem would have fallen into chaos. "Your Majesty, I may be proud, but my devotion is true, unlike her, who hides deceit behind a pure face." Zoe flushed red, ready to defend me, but I motioned her back. Closing the book in my hand, I rose calmly, bowed to the emperor, and faced the consort. You entered the palace before me, sister, and have served his majesty well. I call you sister out of respect. But if you speak of seduction and adultery without proof, one might mistake the palace for a brothel. If you accuse me of meeting a man, where is your evidence? A smug smile crossed her lips. She ordered a servant to bring forth a letter, written by Adrian She himself, claiming that I had invited him to meet me on the island in the palace lake. I laughed quietly, as though hearing a great joke. The consort frowned, impatient, and clapped her hands. A young maid fell to her knees, trembling. Your Majesty, Consort Luna, I only obeyed orders. The Empress seemed troubled and told me to summon Lord Shai. She even gave me her handkerchief to deliver to him. The Emperor's expression darkened. His gaze turned searching. I looked at the girl and then knelt. Your Majesty, this maid has served in Fengchi Palace only briefly. Zoe tells me she used to serve Lady Ling, who happens to be the consort's cousin. For the sake of my name, please search the maid's quarters. You'll find proof of my innocence. My hair was slightly disheveled, tears glistening down my cheeks. I looked fragile, like a flower beaten by rain, something to be protected. The Emperor's eyes softened at once. He loved being needed. It fed the man beneath the crown. He was an emperor, but still a man. The Empress Dowager soon arrived, scolding him for allowing this spectacle. She said I had spent my days quietly studying and practicing calligraphy in her palace. How could I have met anyone? Moments later, the guards returned. From the maid's room, they produced several letters and a pouch of silver. The letters detailed how to frame me. The silver was stamped with a tiny character, Shu. Money from the Shu family treasury. The maid collapsed, clutching at Luna Shu's robe. My lady, please save me. For the first time, panic flashed in the consort's eyes. Still, she straightened and said slowly, Your Majesty, perhaps we should summon Lord Shai to confront the Empress directly. The truth will reveal itself. The Emperor agreed. Adrian Shai was brought in. He knelt, eyes cold, a trace of murderous intent beneath the calm. I sipped my tea leisurely. He began his performance, claiming that though we had once been childhood companions, he had ended all feelings the moment he learned I would marry the Emperor. But I, he said, had kept pursuing him, trying to rekindle what was lost. He was willing to risk his life to defend the Emperor's honor. I almost laughed. I had planned to deal with him later, but since he was so eager to die, why not oblige? I looked at him with open disdain. So this is the virtue of the Xie family? To slander a woman without cause? My father may have resigned from office, but that doesn't make the Shen family a target for your lies. We were never childhood sweethearts, and everyone knows who truly holds your heart. Shock rippled through the room. Both Luna Shu and Adrian Shai stiffened. Ah, yes, his deepest secret, whispered to me years ago, when he poisoned me with safflower wine. Their faces betrayed unease. Time to pour oil on the fire. Seeing you today, Lord Shai, reminds me of the rumors that the woman you truly love is none other than Consort Luna Shu. Lies, they shouted in unison. Adrian Shai lunged forward, fury blazing, as if he could tear me apart. I spoke softly, almost lazily. If His Majesty doubts me, he need only strip off Lord Shai's robe. I've heard that the name of his beloved is carved upon his chest. Adrian Shai froze, eyes wide with terror. The Emperor's face darkened. He strode forward and signaled the guards. They seized Adrian, tearing open his clothes as he struggled. Luna Shu frowned in confusion, until the truth was laid bare. The Emperor stared. The consort spat out her tea. On Adrian's chest were 4 inked characters. My wife, Ruyue. Ruyu, Luna Shu's childhood name. The Emperor's face turned black with rage. I knelt immediately. All others followed suit. He picked up a dagger and walked slowly toward Luna Shu. She panicked, falling to her knees. Your Majesty, it was all him. He dared to desire me. It was his crime, not mine. He lifted her chin gently. There was no warmth in his eyes. Kill him, he said coldly. Then I will believe your innocence. The hall fell silent. Only the sound of trembling breaths filled the space. Luna Shu's hand shook as she took the dagger and stepped toward Adrian Shai. He looked up at her, a faint smile on his lips. Do it, he whispered softly. She hesitated, then raised her sleeve and plunged the blade into his chest. He fell instantly. She collapsed beside him, pale and shaking. The body was carried away, the blood scrubbed from the floor until nothing remained. As if it had never happened. Yes, once, in my past life, I had watched their celebration after my death. To prove his love, She had bared his chest to show her the tattoo. She'd been horrified then too, and told him to get rid of it. That was why I'd planned this trap. Shai, your greatest love was always destined to destroy you. I coughed lightly. Behind me, Zoe slipped out unnoticed. The Emperor came to me, helping me up with guilt in his eyes. Claire, I've wronged you. I leaned into his arms, tears falling just so. From the corner of my eye, I saw Luna Shu sitting motionless, face drained of color. I smiled softly. Your Majesty is a wise ruler. I knew you would clear my name. So no, I'm not sad. Watching the Emperor hold me close, tenderness between us overflowing, the consort's expression darkened like a flower that had withered overnight. Still bright on the surface but rotten within. The consort was confined again, not for a month this time, but no leaving without imperial summons. The Emperor spent every night in my palace. I burned Su Hexiang each evening. He loved it. I removed his crown, massaged the points at his temples. He would hold my hand, eyes content. Only here do I feel at ease. Even if we don't speak, I can breathe. You make me happy. Heh. Dog of a man. Didn't you say the same to Luna Shu? 100 times? 1,000? You can't sweet-talk me. Still, in my rooms, he was indeed happy. And later, I would make him even happier. 2 months passed. One morning after court, he rushed to the consort's quarters. Luna Shu was with child. The news came while I was copying sutras for the Empress Dowager. She said I was very much like her, especially my nature. When she heard of Luna's pregnancy, she asked for my opinion. I didn't answer. I wrote a line instead. Those who excel at war first make themselves unassailable, then wait for the enemy to become vulnerable. She nodded, pleased. So young, yet you think like an old woman. She spoke of her sister, my mother, who had married my father. My father had suffered much for the realm. She had believed her foster son, the Emperor, would be a good ruler. But she once dreamed he killed her sister and the entire Shen clan. He even suspected her, poisoned her with wine, and she died in winter. The Dowager gripped my hand, eyes full of pity. Then she shook her head. Not enough, she said, and added a second line. Opportunity lost will not return. I met her steady gaze and knew we had cast the net long enough. Time to draw it in. Chapter 3. The consort lost the child. The physicians said grief and agitation had unsettled her pulse. A miscarriage was likely. When the Emperor, the Dowager, and I arrived, herbal decoctions stained the floor. Luna Shu lay in the Emperor's arms, hair disheveled, weeping as if her heart were torn apart. Yes, she had entered the palace with him, enjoying the most favor, yet had borne no child. It was her deepest wound. She had guarded this pregnancy with her life. Everything she ate, wore, touched, checked again and again. So why was the child gone? Her eyes flicked toward me, her face twisted. She lunged. Claire Shen, you did this. Otherwise my child would be alive. You. The Emperor seized her and held her tight. Don't cry, Luna, we will have another. I promise you, I'll give you a child. I raised my handkerchief to my lips. Another second and I might have laughed out loud. Men are ridiculous. They lie without blinking, and their comfort comes in polished phrases. Luna Shu, don't be foolish. You will never have a child. He soothed her for a long time. She finally cried herself to sleep. I touched his hand, suggesting he stay with the consort, then helped the Dowager back to her rooms. A few nights later he quarreled with Luna again. They said he nearly smashed the love token jade pendant he had once given her. He came to me. I feigned sleep. He spent the night in the hall of mental cultivation. When he left, I wrapped a cloak around my shoulders and slipped through the dark to Weiyang Palace. The place glittered with new gifts, the Emperor's pity after her loss. Luna lay on the bed, much thinner, her former arrogance gone. Seeing me, she struggled up and called for her maids. I sat and said the Dowager was praying, and the Buddha hall needed cleaning. Her attendants had all been sent out, they would not return soon. She snorted and put on her old superior face, as if I were a servant. I smiled and went straight to the point. Adrian G is dead. Are you sad? She froze, not expecting the name. Then she gave me a cold look. A minor lordling who dared covet the Emperor's favorite. Death suits him. He was a pawn, nothing more. I used him as I pleased. I fingered the jewels in her hair and found a phoenix hairpin I liked, 9-tailed, lavish. I slid it out and placed it in my own hair. A pity. If he knew the woman he loved all his life killed him with her own hand and then slandered him after death, I wonder what he'd think, poor man. I lifted a bronze mirror and admired the pin, pleased. A fine pin for a beautiful woman, don't you agree, sister? Without waiting for her answer, I continued. I came because I pity you. I want to tell you a truth. The emperor you love most has deceived you. You will never bear a child. Not ever. Only the crackle of the brazier answered me. She lunged. I stepped aside easily. Pale and shaking, she tried to steady her voice, but fear leaked through. What do you mean? Are you cursing me? I smiled. No curse, simply the truth. Your father was a great Khan of the northern plains. He's dead, but half your blood is northern. Have you not heard the saying, those not of our clan may harbor different hearts? If you bore a son, the northerners might raise him up, use him to bargain for the frontier. Would the emperor allow it? The border has been quiet only a few years. He would not gamble the realm, so he can give you endless favor. He will never give you a child. Your oil's at full boil. All that blazing love has blinded you. The fertility tonics you drink each day, they are preventatives. The best physicians find nothing because the imperial infirmary serves one master, the emperor. She grabbed my shoulders hard, eyes wild. No, you're lying. He and I share years of devotion. He would never do this to me. I only want his child. I didn't move. She released me slowly, as if remembering. When I entered the palace with my aunt, I saw them bullying him. He was thin, but his eyes were bright. Even beaten, he stood straight. I couldn't bear it. I avenged him for every slight. Life became easier for him. He said when he became emperor, I would be his only empress. He would make me the most favored in history, his only woman. I didn't believe him at first, but when he spoke, I believed. He wanted the throne. I made Aunt Wrong switch sides, gathered ministers for him. He won, barely. She turned away, hollowed out, and shuffled back to sit on the bed. What we share, you can't understand. There was an edict, so I could not be empress. He promised me all his love instead. I didn't care about the title. I wanted his heart. But after you came, he changed. He even lifted the jade pendant, the one he gave me, and almost smashed it. He forgets what matters, and he forgets who stood with him when he had nothing. Tears filled her eyes. I remembered how, in my last life, my soul watched her write to Adrian Jai, praising his work. She said my father and Grand Dowager Rong were on opposite sides. After the emperor took the throne, he and my father clashed even more. My father believed in benevolence. The emperor called it weakness, so he had long planned to eliminate us, for the emperor and for her aunt. And my Shen clan bled for it. I bent close and whispered in her ear, "Do you know why you conceived? Because I had your medicine switched. Do you know why you lost the child? Because the emperor put safflower into your calming decoction. Your mother was Han, but your blood is mixed. Do you truly think he would risk the throne on a child tied to the northern tribes? You knew this somewhere. You wanted to test his love. Now you have your answer. He is not what you imagined. He loves no one. He loves only himself." She stared at me in horror. Then she clutched her head and screamed, laughing and sobbing, voice ragged like a ghost's. Love should not turn other lives into kindling. She loved him until she lost herself. Now that she knew the truth, her fierce nature would never let her pretend. She was finished. I pulled the phoenix pin from my hair and tossed it beside her, then slipped away. Those who are too rigid do not live long. I am best at killing the heart. Luna Shu died. That very night, she burned herself in Weiyang Palace. The fire raged a full day and night. When her body was carried out, charred black, her fingers still gripped the jade pendant. The emperor came to me, face ashen. He held me tight, voice hoarse, then asked if he had done wrong. I kissed him gently. "Your Majesty is the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven cannot be wrong. You're tired. Rest. Let me serve you." He breathed in the pear-scented room and sighed, then lay obediently on my bed. A little coaxing, and his grief melted into heat. The bed curtains trembled. I laughed for the first time, truly laughed. Then tears slipped down my face. The man she loved all her life, another could sway him with the lightest touch. For the first time, I pitied Luna Shu. This is the man you loved. Your bones are not yet cold. After Luna's death, pregnancies in the harem multiplied. Without her, and with a new round of beauties chosen, the emperor indulged himself. 2 months later, he summoned 3 concubines to the Hall of Mental Cultivation at once. The dowager scolded him the next day for breaking ancestral rules. As his mother in name, she had to make a show. She did not truly punish him. I pled a chill and kept to my rooms. He admitted fault in words, then moved his games to the concubines' palaces. I protected them. These daughters of minor officials were not what they seemed. I had purchased them quietly in Yangzhou under false names, trained courtesans, each more dazzling than the last. I controlled the selection. I placed them in the draft as low-ranked daughters. The emperor saw no danger in their families and simply enjoyed them. Their task was simple: drain him. Without sober ministers to restrain him, the hot blood of his youth faded in warm arms and perfumed sleeves. Better to die beneath a peony, so the saying goes. Song Huaijin, do you like the gift I prepared? Half a year passed. 2 princesses and 1 prince were born. A rare celebration. The emperor, gaunt as a reed, rejoiced and named the boy crown prince at once. Meanwhile, Suhexiang and wine and women gnawed away his life. I had the physician's incense mixed with a small sedative note. Over time, it dulled the mind and fed indulgence. The pear scent he loved concealed it perfectly. So he came to me more often, losing himself in my gentle land. Under the courtesan's diligent care, he began drinking deer-blood wine. He asked the physicians for secret tonics to strengthen him. 2 months later, he rose from a concubine's bed and collapsed. The physicians shook their heads. There was no saving him. I sat by his bed, spooning medicine to his lips, weeping prettily with the others. There was already a crown prince. Song Huaijin could not remain. That night I sent everyone away and gave him one last bowl. He smiled and drank. Then his fingers clamped around my hand. It was a powerful tonic, but for a body already ruined, it was fatal. He gripped me as I stared at him, eyes burning. Song Huaijin, in this harem, no one loves you. The one who loved you most is dead. Burned herself to ash. You are cold by nature. You turned on everyone who ever helped you. This is your due. In our last life, you slaughtered the Shen clan for a crime that did not exist. In this life, let me govern the realm in your stead. His eyes bulged red, no words came, his hands slackened, fell, never rose again. Yes, I hated Adrian Shai, I despised Luna Shu. But I hated Song Huaijin more. In my last life I watched my family beheaded one by one. Their only crime was loyalty. To him, loyalty was treason. Song Huaijin, you were never fit to rule. 9 tolls of the bell. By dawn, the capital had changed. The heir was a child. The Empress Dowager ruled as regent. Reason and ritual were on our side. Those who objected lost a few heads, and the rest found no argument. I became the youngest Dowager Empress in history. With ministers to aid me, I was at ease with state affairs. After court, I handed the infant emperor to his wet nurse. A limping eunuch came to offer tea. I looked up and smiled. An old acquaintance, Adrian Shai. He knelt, trembling, mute. Ah yes. His tongue had been torn out. I bent close and whispered. That day, I arranged to save you, not for free. You were handsome, so I sold you to the South Wind House. The noble sons liked you very much. You tried to run. Each time, they broke a new bone. When they almost killed you, I saved you again. I cut off your line and placed you in the palace. Such fortune, no? Death was spared, pain was not. There's a eunuch in Shokang Palace who likes pretty boys. I transferred him there for you. Go with him. He will treat you very well. The leering eunuch fell to his knees in thanks. I nodded. He dragged Adrian Shai away like a dog. A scream soon tore up from the servants' quarters, startling the birds. I took a slow sip of tea. From the servants' quarters came a single, piercing scream. The tea tasted especially sweet that day.